Much. We just wanted to take a moment to celebrate some of the practical things. I was reminded in the break about Sedex and its members and about the stuff that we do. So it's great talking about the theory, the strategy, and being reminded about the practical outcomes as well in terms of some of the things that we have been doing. Last year, the board and I took the step to introduce for the first time an awards process, which was supported by the industry and continues to be. And in that awards, we wanted to recognize some of the actual things that people are in fact doing. And as part of that, I wanted to celebrate not only tonight in terms of the awards that we will give, and we have an extra category this evening, and I'll let Martine take you through that in a minute, but also to celebrate 1 year on, what happened to the awards last year. And if you remember, those of you who joined me last year, we said we'd follow our awardees and successful awards through the last 12 months. So what I thought we'd do is, rather than hear from me in Sedex, because we haven't done anything, it's from our members, we take the opportunity today to introduce those awards again and talk about what's happened in the last 12 months. It can be seen as a gratuitous plug. It isn't. I've listened to very carefully to the presentations. I've seen the presentations. I would ask for your attention. And if they do allow you time for a couple of questions, feel free to ask them at the end. But we are apparently getting out on time to make sure that our final speaker does get a moment. So enough from me. So I'd like to welcome on stage the first winner from last year, which was Erin, celebrating the fantastic work that she's done. Last year's awards winners, Elevate, M&S and AMC Corps. Erin represents Elevate. Welcome on stage, Erin. You're very welcome. Which was the successful winner for Workplace of Choice program. Erin.
Thank you very much. Hi, good afternoon. I'm Erin, the Europe Elevate Director. Elevate is a professional services firm. We specialize in sustainability and supply chain analytics, assessment, consulting, and outsourcing. Together with RBA, we won the new award last year for most innovative new program, and I was really honored to collect that award on behalf of the great team behind this program that I'm really proud to call my colleagues and partners. So that was then. I dug out my most innovative wardrobe item, and the men selected their most innovative male attire. It was also a great feeling to have a D sticking out the top of my head. You can imagine the fun my colleagues had with that one. But in all seriousness, it was really an honor to be recognized. We won for our Workplace of Choice Malaysia project, which was a worker voice program to promote fair and safe labor practices for foreign migrant workers, with education and capacity building built in as part of that. We focused on a survey at the start of the program to really understand how the workers were recruited and then apply that capacity building after that. We've shifted from pilot to program, so I've got lots to report. We've gone from Workplace of Choice to Responsible Workplace program. We've built in labeling technology to both enhance the survey and the training and the helpline. And this is part of the broader RBA, the Responsible Business Alliance program, supported by a generous grant from the Walmart Foundation. But why are we doing this? Why this pilot? Because we wanted to look at and to address and to create change and really address forced labor for foreign migrant workers whose vulnerability is created at every level by the unethical recruitment practices that they face both in their home countries and their receiving countries, the expenses they have to bear to get work and the ongoing debt burden that places on their families, the barriers they face, again, in their home and receiving countries with language and access to remedy, but also their limited awareness of their contractual rights. But also, really importantly, is looking to drive change and create impact for their employers as well, because their challenges are equally important. The labour shortages that they face, the low productivity rates, the increasing government inspections, and the risk of losing customers if they're not addressing these issues. So what did we find? I'll get on to the details. So this is some of the findings from our baseline study. We found that 60% of workers pay a fee to get their job, and of those, 40% are taking a loan to pay that fee. We discovered the variety of different charges paid by workers from different nationalities, and we found that just over half of the workers are keeping their own passports, only just over half. We also found, by talking to foreign migrant workers, that when they have an issue, their preferred method to raise them is by speaking to supervisors. But we also found that supervisors aren't well equipped to resolve those concerns. They don't necessarily have the right skill set, the right support from management, and there's just too many competing demands on their time. Foreign migrant workers prefer this channel, but their issues aren't being well addressed in this way. So we began a program of training for managers and for workers to really work on those issues that we found. What are the results showing us? They're showing us some positive results. They're showing us that fewer workers are paying a fee, more workers are keeping their passports, and more believe that they can leave a position without penalty. So we went from pilot to program, and this is to give you a diagrammatic sense of that program. And the workplace, the Responsible Workplace program, is part of the RBA Responsible Labour Initiative, which includes a responsible recruitment program as well. It takes a systems approach. We're moving to more ethical recruitment, a focus on creating ethical recruitment at the start of the foreign migrant worker journey, adding that to educating workplaces and building and strengthening management systems in the receiving country so that we can decrease the prevalence of forced labour. And at the very heart of that system, running through the centre, is that worker voice. You have the worker survey providing input and information about the recruitment process and practices that enables us to measure that prevalence of forced labour, and the helpline to provide that additional outlet in the receiving countries. The overall theory of change being that more recognised, more certified recruitment agencies, once we have those, we should see a decrease in forced labour. So what do the elements of the programme look like? The first one, the worker surveys, these are deployed using the LabourLink technology on mobile phones. The data comes to a secure LabourLink platform from the worker's phone that they can enable from various different platforms, and we pull that data and we turn that into the data analytics that we can use to inform the program. It's voluntary, it's anonymous, and it's really designed to get at those hard to reach, most vulnerable workers. The second part, the training, there's two key parts of that training. There's both in-person training and e-learning training as well. And what we're looking at there is to really work with both the managers of the factory to train them on the issues that we've identified. How to train supervisors so that they can deal with the issues in your workplace. How to conduct effective pre-departure training so that it has an impact on your workers. How to teach workers to understand their own contracts. And how to effectively return passports and all the challenges and all the messaging around that can entail. The third part of this is around worker education. We've pulled that information from workers that give us our statistics and our data, but then also we can push information to those workers as well. We can describe the terms and conditions of their contracts. We can tell them about life in Malaysia. And finally, the helpline, going beyond the factory walls, but using that information to provide the data to factories and then helping them to remediate those issues. I just wanted to share as well about how the recruitment and the workplace program are interlinked as well. We're deploying 2 worker surveys. One is to help us detect the real risks and indicators of forced labour in supply chains. The second is to understand the workers' recruitment experience so that we can provide input into the validation of the ethical recruitment agencies. We can uncover practices that those agencies need to address, and we can use the data, as you can see here, to benchmark those recruitment agencies based on the workers' own experience as well. And finally, Where do we go? Where do we go now? We go beyond Malaysia. The project that we've been doing, the program is really focused on Malaysia, but we want to go beyond that. We want to go into Southeast Asia. We want to go where these issues are really prevalent. We want to take and build the best parts of our program here and build it into what we're doing every day, to build worker voice into our data sets, to go beyond our audit data and our self-assessment questionnaires. We want to create more partnerships and collaborations, so we're talking industries and countries. We want to use this program and this approach and the data we've got to build better analysis about our current and future risks. What don't we know? What other information can we use? And we want to scale these activities to create fit-for-purpose grievance mechanisms in the countries where we're implementing these programs, using our experience that we've had, Bangladesh, Malaysia, China. And finally, we want you to join us. We want more people to join the program. So if you are interested, please come and speak to someone from Elevate or from RBA, and we can tell you a lot more. And very finally, I'd like to say thank you to Sedex. Thank you. Thanks.
And I think we're joined today by Rob Lederer from the RBA as well. It's good to see them here and working in partnership with one of our sponsors as well, Elevate, Erin, team, Ian, a fantastic job and really demonstrating impact on the ground following Heather's story in Labour Link in terms of how worker voice is working. Someone that's very close to me, someone who's looked after me as my early career, someone I hold in very high regard, and someone who's been a great advocate for Sedex through the many years that we've been together. No collusion at all in terms of the way in which the award was won last year, which was on its own recognizance. But welcoming to the stage M&S and Louise Nicholls in the category around food and how do we do business sustainability. And it was the best example of continuous improvement from the awards from last year. Louise.
Good afternoon, everyone. Are you still awake? Good. Marvellous. Okay, so 1 year on, what have we been up to since we won the Sedex award? Well, one of the big things that we were up to last year is that we celebrated the 10-year anniversary of Plan A. Unbelievable, where did the time fly? And it was a recognition that the business needed to evolve the sustainability plan. We developed a new business strategy. We were recognizing the world was just hurling along at a very fast pace, lots of environmental and social changes that really our sustainability plan needed a complete boost forward. And also a recognition that we really needed to connect with the customer. So this is just a recognition, 10 years of Plan A. We'd achieved loads of things that we're very proud of. We delivered 296 social and environmental commitments. This is a plan that had real traction and motivation, and that because of that, the business was feeling ambitious and keen to set off with some new hairy goals. So we launched Plan A 2025 last June with 100 hairy, audacious goals, which of course, shortly afterwards we were thinking, oh, why do we put those hairy goals in place? But there were kind of three key aspects to our sustainability plan. One, a real focus on well-being. The second one, a real focus on the whole social agenda, and it was a really much more up-weighted sustainability plan, whereas you could be criticised that our first Plan A was very much an eco plan with a bit of ethics involved. This was very much weighted in the other direction, and that was recognising the need to become a much more inclusive business, needing to be much more connected to the communities in which we served, recognising we would need very different skills to be able to cope with the kind of level of disruption that was going to hit the retail market, and a real recognition that human rights was here to stay, and there was going to be a much greater expectation on business. And then the last bit was about the environmental aspects, and again that was really moving us on to be carbon neutral, to be thinking about becoming a zero waste business, really thinking about how we use natural resources in a much more efficient way. So 100 new commitments, and I think the way to frame this that's important is 19 of those commitments are about human rights, just to give you a real sense of just how important human rights is to our new agenda. And a strapline that really was about saying that in however we thought about connecting with the customer, if we could be starting to think about how the customer could be thinking about spending it well. having more value in the way they interacted with Marks and Spencer's. So let's go on to the sustainability framework, which is what we won the award for last year. So we set up our sustainability framework back in 2010. And we set it up because we had lots of suppliers talking to us saying, we need to form a sustainability strategy. We don't really know how to do it. We had a few suppliers who said, oh, we've got some elements of that we've already put together. But a recognition that we could all do it individually, or we could start to pull together some of the good practice that was already out there, and that we could involve a whole set of stakeholders who could help us too, to give us the kind of stepping stones that took us from minimal compliance along that stepping stone towards putting in place good management practices, all the way through to creating real leadership where Marks and Spencer's could be learning from our leading suppliers. And the whole idea behind this was about future-proofing those businesses against rising costs, stringent new legislation, new environmental and social risks. But the other key element was really starting to think about how might we be able to reward and recognise leading performance. So fast track to where we are today, 95% of our first-tier supply chain is involved in the process. And compared with where we were last year, where 56% of our volume was coming from sites that were already at silver or gold, we're now at 63%, and we haven't quite finished the financial year yet. So why? This is really simple. For me, I can't believe we're having a conversation about compliance. That is gone. The juggernauts are heading towards us very, very fast. We are in a world of disruption in terms of environmental change, in terms of human rights, and in terms of technology. We're in a world of disruption, and we need to adjust as businesses. And so there is a real reason for doing this. This is about profitable growth. Be it that we look at it from a social perspective, this is about creating stable, motivated workforces. And the more engaged they are, the better the productivity, the more chance you have of developing that talent from within and promoting it through your organisation. In terms of environment, well, you all know that. Helping businesses to reduce their waste, to use their energy more efficiently, to have more resilient supply chains so they've got more sustainable sources for the long term. It's just common sense. And then our whole piece is that we added in lean. And this is really important. This is joining that agenda between the sustainability part and embedding it into the business strategy so that everybody on the workforce floor should be able to talk about the sustainability strategy and the part they play in making that happen. And it speaks for itself. We're placing our business with businesses that are embracing sustainability. They're growing twice as fast as those that aren't. So what do we do with the new sustainability plan that we launched last year? Well, what we've done is we've embedded all the aspects of the commitments that are relevant for a food manufacturer into the framework. So make progress on the framework, and you're going to have a leading sustainability strategy. It's as simple as that. We've also been really, really clear. The trading director stood up, the CEO has stood up and said, we're only going to work with suppliers who've embedded sustainability into their business. And here's the time frame. 95% of you've got to reach silver by 2020, and really we're talking about the last 5% will inevitably allow for those new businesses, nurture businesses that are on the journey to getting involved with Marks and Spencer's. And by 2025%, 50% of you are going to be gold. And let's be clear, by the time we get to 2025, we will have evolved the scorecard again because the sustainability juggernaut's not going to slow down. So what's next? What have we been working on over the last year? Well, we've been recognising that we probably needed another element to our framework, so we've introduced supply chain. And this is just really recognising, talking with suppliers, what they were saying is, we've got a clear lead for ethics, we've got a clear lead for environment, and a clear lead in terms of the operations director who's kind of leading on the lean manufacturing. But actually, when it comes to kind of taking this down the supply chain, we haven't really got a clear owner. So can we call this out, make this into a fourth pillar, make it much clearer what the expectation is on the procurement teams, the technical teams, in terms of how we embed and drive this further and harder down the supply chain? We've recognised that we needed to engage with certain aspects. So for the packaging side of our supply chain, a recognition, well, you can't have missed the whole conversation about plastics, that we needed to take our packaging suppliers on the journey too. So that was a recognition we needed a silver pack mark. And then a recognition that for some businesses, where they're small seasonal businesses, where maybe they've got a very small number of workers, that we probably needed a silver flex that reflected a stepping stone journey for those organisations. We've also focused on how to make it even easier to help people make faster traction. So we've introduced cohorts to help those suppliers make those kind of leaps forward together, because there's no point in siloed learning. You know, as you're trying to embed lean manufacturing, being able to talk with another company that's also trying to embed lean manufacturing just makes sense and helps to drive it faster. And the last bit is a greater focus on analytics, and that links back to the last session on impact. So why is the scorecard the key enabler? Well, it's really simple. It is about simplifying sustainability and future-proofing our supply chain. It is about addressing ethical and environmental risks, and those are only going to increase. It's absolutely about promoting efficient, low-cost manufacturing, again, something every business in the room will be having to think about. And it's really about trying to drive that business case to higher performance. You know, this just makes good business sense, and it's about trying to help that narrative with the board to do that. And it is about building end-to-end capability. If we're going to address the risk 7 tiers down, we're only going to do that by taking every layer of the supply chain on the same journey. Thank you very much.
Just before we go to the final award, just a reminder, there's some feedback available from you. If you just look at the app, just have a look towards the bottom right-hand corner, there's an opportunity for you to leave some feedback. Your comments, good and bad, are welcome, and any references that you want to bring forward to day 2 that we can embed, that's really important too. So it's your opportunity to network with all of us and the team here at Sedex, but also with yourselves. So thank you for that. So in the final category from last year, Martin will talk about the new category that's been introduced this year, but the final category from last year, we talked about the best collaborative effort. And those of you who understand Sedex, historically we talk about collaboration and we talk about bringing people together, and there's over 600 of you in the room and over 300-400 of you online that are participating in that collaboration right now. So in 2017, for the first time, we brought this category out, and we had a really interesting response. And the judges worked hard, but at the end of the discussion, we had a fantastic award that went to the AMC group, and it's the Juice CSR platform. So I introduce on stage. You're very welcome.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Olimpia Ortiz. I'm Head of Quality Systems and Sustainability at AMC USES. It's part of the ANC Group. ANC USES is a company dedicated to developing and producing healthy, natural fruit juices. We won the award last year in the Best Collaborative category for our active collaboration with the Juice CSR platform. In reality here, I'm just going to very briefly tell you what we have been up to in the last year in our collaboration with the platform. We are members of the steering committee, and this hopefully will give you some very, very simple and basic ideas of what you can put in practice in your business. So basically, in the platform, members don't work on their own. We need a specialist to work with us. So we work with the ROC Group, with Fair and Sustainable, with the European Fruit Juice Association, and with CLM. They are specialists on sustainability, and they are part of the management team in the platform. In the last year, we've been concentrating a lot on coordination and on developing the work that we have in our main 3 working groups that work on the 3 of the key raw materials that we have in the juice sector, which are orange from Brazil, apple from Poland, and pineapple from Thailand. We've been focusing mainly on growing the membership of our platform trying to get members across all the different actors in our supply chains, from retailer down to grower. And we've also been concentrating on sharing best practice, and mainly our main aim is to develop pilot projects as source where we are getting the fruit from, and that's where we want to concentrate most of our efforts. So, for example, early this year, 2 of the last companies that have just joined the platform has been San Miguel and Fruit Tag. So with this, we are now with 39 members, small association, but I think that we are doing good. The working group dedicated to working on Brazilian orange. The main task of this group has been to evaluate the possibility to support an existent project called Rural Horizon project. The other task has been to identify hotspots on developing pilot projects individually from the platform. We have had difficulties to validate the information search by the members of the working group, so we have had to postpone the group visit to Brazil until we actually validate all the data that we've been recruiting, because we actually don't know what to do with so much data, and we need to validate this data with the Citrus Brazilian Exporters Association. In the meantime, we have postponed this visit, but we have promoted Fundicitrus, an association of Brazilian citrus growers and juice manufacturers that works towards sustainable development in the citrus industry. So we've been trying to promote their participation in the most important European event of the juice industry, which is the Juice Summit that is celebrated in Antwerp every year in October. These are some examples of connections that we've been trying to do between the Sustainable Juice Association from Citrus VRs, so from the Association of Brazilian Citrus Exporters, across to the Juice CSR platform and other members of the European juice industry. The working group too, so the working group that was on apples from Poland, this one has 10 members. It's been the most active working group by far, and also the most effective, so the one that has achieved most. The main task of this group were to set a baseline for the Poland apple sector, to identify hotspots and make sure that we actually carried out visits at source to develop certain projects. The results have been that we have actually done 2 visits in the last year, so one in April where we concentrated on environmental and pesticide aspects, and another one in October where we concentrated on social aspects. The actions of the results of these visits, I mean, during these visits, just for practical advice, what we've done is just to speak with a lot of local people, so with partners that are local. So we've spoken directly with a lot of growers. We've spoken with the sales manager, Rap Halls, which is a producer organization in Poland. We've been having interviews with the president of the Polish Association of Fruit Growers. We've been meeting the director of the country employment office in Grodziek. We've been visiting some of the farmers of one of the most important juice producer of apple in Poland. We've been meeting with the secretary of the Polish Juice Association. So these are the type of meetings that we've been having when we've been down in Poland. These are some of the photographs of our trip. The first one was regarding social aspects, and the second one was regarding pesticide and environmental aspects. In the working group 3 in Thailand, we've done some research and analysis on the first 2 tiers. So and we found space for improvement through SAA 8000 or through SMETA at processor level. And at a farmer level, we haven't had enough information to actually develop a pilot. We only have 3 people involved in this working group, so it's the one that is a bit behind. So we need additional research with local partners. We've already planned to review the new legal framework on immigrant workers. We are exploring possibilities to work with a company to develop farmer training on more modern good agricultural practices. And also we are mainly trying to connect with the canning industry, because it has a very similar supply chain to ours. So that way we think we can have more strength when we go to speak with the government and with the administration. Finally, we've just been doing a lot of plenary meetings, and we've been using this as a tool as an opening space for further discussions. Then we've used the webinars when we wanted to go more into the detail, like for example, talking about a specific pesticide issue in a specific territory. We've been promoting with acts an atmosphere of cooperation from the companies that will have bigger resources within the platform. We've also tried to attract interest from third parties in outside events, like me being here, for example, today. In terms of communication, we've created in the platform a communication committee. So through this committee, we've developed an internal website within the platform website, facilitating the members to exchange knowledge. We've developed a LinkedIn page. I know this may sound very basic, but it has helped us a lot to exchange knowledge and to connect people that maybe are in other continents with the European industry. So we developed a LinkedIn page with updates, facilitating networking for smaller companies, and we are making sure that we include that any events or any important events that are taking place in the juice industry are including a sustainability or a juice or a CSR stream. And now we are developing new newsletter, additional work on updates for the steering committees, so we have more information to make decisions, developing KPIs for the progress of the platform now that we are becoming a bit bigger. These are some of the examples that the members are exchanging in our in our LinkedIn page, which I invite you to visit. And finally, we need more members in the platform. That's why we are trying to invite as guests members that are companies that are non-members, so they can actually experience what is a plenary meeting or what is a steering committee, so they can actually experience which things we exchange, which problems we tackle, which visits we do to source, and normally the companies that join our plenary meetings as guests, they eventually become very active members. So just to finalize, in summary, our very, very easy tips to take operation from strength to strength would be to just think that every little counts, to just get out of your comfort zone, because it's very complicated to achieve sustainable sourcing. We know it's not an easy task, so you need to get out of your comfort zone. Then cooperate. If you have resources, try to be a leader. If you have small resources, then go local. Association is vital, so you are not going to achieve anything on your own. Get associated with your sector, with your local group of people that is trying to tackle a specific problem where you are. And yes, please, let's all try to raise the growers' voice in the sector. Thanks very much.
So I'm actually going to ask you to give another round of applause for all three of the winners from last year. So thank you very much. Good job. Thank you. At this point, your hostess is back. You get to get rid of me. You've seen enough of me. Over to Martine for what is coming up tonight.
Yes. So these are the shortlisted nominees for the awards for 2018. This year there are 4 award categories, one more than previously, each open to a different type of Sedex member. Got an assistant. Very glamorous. The first award is Best Example of Continuous Improvement. These are examples of how a positive impact has been made within the supply chain through a project or a programme of continuous improvement. So here are the shortlisted nominees. ADM Group in the UK. ADM is a global marketing services business partnering with leading consumer brands to support the execution of their marketing strategies globally. ADM's supply chain solutions deliver competitive advantage and cost optimization whilst adhering to best-in-class CSR practices. ADM rigorously assess their suppliers, working closely with them to achieve 100% compliance. Also in this category, Co-op UK. Co-op's global supplier engagement programme seeks to work collaboratively to raise standards through providing a comprehensive range of capacity-building activities, building transparent supplier relations, measuring performance based on behaviours such as ownership and supporting the creation of local supplier forums to drive sustainable change. And the third nominee shortlisted in this category is Mondelēz in the USA. In 2012, Mondelēz International launched Cocoa Life, its holistic sustainability program backed by a $400 million investment and rooted in a vision of thriving and empowered cocoa communities as the necessary foundation to a sustainable cocoa supply chain. The second category is best collaborative effort, examples of how a supplier has used collaboration or partnership with customers, suppliers, or other stakeholders to improve working conditions or to solve a responsible sourcing challenge. The shortlisted nominees here are James Cropper, UK. James Cropper, along with UK retailers Selfridges and waste management expert Veolia, has worked to forge a supply chain whereby used coffee cups from Selfridges offices and stores are upcycled into its iconic yellow shopping bags in a completely unique closed-loop recycling solution. Kellogg USA. Kellogg is nominated for its collaboration with Max Marketing. They've been an agency and supplier for the company since 2004. They continue to develop their operation and the manufacturing facilities they use to maintain high ethical practices, robust standards, and regular monitoring. And the third shortlisted organisation is Total Worldfresh UK. In March 2017, in collaboration with emerging leaders and Marks & Spencer's, the Leadership for Life training programme was delivered for the workers at one of the United Exports production sites in South Africa, Umbiza Berries. They're the three. The most innovative new programme has examples of how an innovative supply chain monitoring, capacity building or worker engagement programme has helped support positive impact or continuous improvement within the supply chain. Shortlisted here, we have Globalised Campaign Welfare Society in India, providing guidance on social compliance and female safety for factories so that they can improve their social performance over time. LabourLink USA. LabourLink by Elevate is a mobile technology that establishes a two-way communication channel for workers to share their anonymous viewpoints in real time and for companies to receive unfiltered data directly from workers. This scalable approach of worker engagement enables companies to drive improvements and have greater visibility into supply chains. And wider, the Netherlands and South Africa, direct worker reporting via mobile for suppliers, buyers, auditors and platforms interested in hearing directly from workers. Why? Well, to better identify urgencies and measure improvements in working conditions along with global supply chains. And how? Through front-loading support, triggering trust, demonstrating anonymity to workers and benefits to suppliers, and simple dashboards. And this is the fourth award, the new one for this year, Best New Programme Implemented. It has examples of how members at any stage of their responsible sourcing journey have successfully implemented a new programme. Shortlisted here, we have Clas Ohlson in Sweden. Clas Ohlson works with Quiz RR, a Swedish company, to build capacity and awareness in a supply chain. Innovative training solutions in workers' rights and responsibilities, health and safety and worker engagement contribute to long-term positive effects and strong inclusive relationships with strategic suppliers. Classic Fashion, Jordan. The Centre for Excellence in Garment Manufacturing has delivered technical skill development to 290 Jordanians, with 250 being employed in classic fashion and 40 others joining other factories. The target for the next year is to deliver training and employability for 3,000 more Jordanians by the end of 2019. And Janat Knitwear Limited, Bangladesh. The Female Supervisor Leadership Programme was initiated in 2014 to promote female line operators to the supervisor position, allowing the workforce to feel empowered and reducing female employee turnover. They're the three shortlisted for this new award.